Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Inside the Matrix once again. I hope that all of you are doing well out there in spite of the craziness in our world. And it just never seems to stop. Anyway, today's guest is a return guest from probably about a year ago or so. And his name is Howdie Mickoski. Now, Howdie is an awesome guy. He's an author, a researcher, and just an incredible thinker. And I really respect where this guy is coming from. He's really an amazing human being, and we love talking with him. So without further ado, let's add Howdie in here. There he is.
Hey, Jimmy.
Welcome to the show. It's so good to see you again. And
Thank you.
So do you live permanently in Norway? Are you and have you always lived there, or when did you?
No, I'm Canadian by birth, so I lived in Canada till then pretty much, and been here about 6 years. 7 years.
I thought that was the case, but I wasn't sure if I remembered that correctly. Anyway, you've got a new book coming out really soon, and actually, from what you sent me, it's going to be a 2-part series book, 2 books. On the subject, and the chapters that you sent me I found absolutely fascinating. And so if you would share with our listeners kind of an overview of what you're working on.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to our talk, because ours, the one we did a year ago, was such a good conversation, so I'm really looking forward to that again. In the course of after I'd done the expositions book that we talked about the last time, I'd finished a couple of years of interviews, and there's kind of a zeitgeist that has been going on in the last 6 months surrounding, I guess, enough people have been questioning reality, questioning what's going on here, and is there any real purpose to it? And through that zeitgeist, I decided to write a book called Exit the Cave, which refers to Plato's cave, ending the reincarnation trap. And it turned out, for now, it's a 15-page book that should be ready, I guess, tomorrow, actually. But chapter 1 is an overview of things like the topics of reincarnation itself, memory wipes, which we probably want to talk about, that humans are here as a food harvesting source for we'll call them astral beings. It's hard to know what they are. And that chapter goes into who or what created this realm, actually. Chapter 2 is all about Plato's cave and what's kind of wrong with the analogy. That's another interesting thing to talk about. Chapter 3 goes into origin stories by people like the Cathars, the Gnostics. I talk Robert Monroe's information, Carlos Castaneda. Then I've got a few chapters with some near-death experiences, some ideas of things you can do. I have a novel chapter where I try to place some of these ideas into a story. I move into movies where we go through Dark City, Westworld, Donnie Darko, Lost, 2001: Space Odyssey, and then I go through a number, again, smaller chapters with more near-death experiences, more on prayer, spiritual warfare, lucid dreaming, the soul. And my final 2 chapters is on the Cathars specifically, because their main focus also was that we are in a reincarnation trap, a reincarnation cycle, and their only purpose was to get out. And of course, they were exterminated by the Catholic Church in the 13th century. And my last chapter is about Carlos Castaneda's book, Active Side of Infinity, what's in there, and also what's talked about these astral realms and what kind of goes on maybe when we cross over at death. So there's the overview, and Jimmy, you can take it where you'd like to go. I just thought it'd be good for the viewers to hear what the subject matter is of that.
And again, I thought I heard you say 15 pages, but no, it's not 15 pages. It's
15 chapters.
15 chapters. Okay.
Yeah, it's like 200. Yeah, 200 pages. So
yeah, I wanted to clear that up because I know that it's going to be a substantial book, and the chapters that you sent me were really pretty eye-opening. And when we talk about this world, there's a lot of different ways that people perceive it, and it appears that we're in a holographic realm of some kind, some type of created realm, whether it was created by AI or a Godhead, or that these are things that it's pretty hard to figure out. But it's fascinating to contemplate. How did we get here? Why did we come in with amnesia? Why do we keep coming in with amnesia? And like you said, I think it behooves a lot of us, if that is the case, that we're in some kind of a trap, we got to figure out how the hell to get out of this place, right? And that's what you
Yeah.
were talking about. The Cathars were focused on that, and the Gnostics as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Both of those groups, which of course both were exterminated, that was their goal. That both of them had a similar creation story. That there is truly a father God, whatever you want to call it, but that God is not the one who created any of this material realm. That was all created. If you're through the Gnostics, that's what they call the demiurge, and if it was through the Cathars, they called it Rex Mundi. And the Cathars claim that's why they didn't read the Old Testament, because the creator God of the Old Testament is Rex Mundi. So, and a basic principle then being everything in matter is evil because it's all created by this demiurge, in a sense, as a copy. It's not actually a creation; it's a copy of another realm. In Gnosticism, they call it a HAL, which interestingly is the name of the computer in 2001: Space Odyssey, right? So they call it this sort of artificial simulation. But so both stories, both creation stories go, the demiurge was unable to get the new human form to move. It wouldn't animate. And a deal was made. And in the course of that deal, this is known as the myth of Sophia, fallen Sophia. She was part of the original mistake of creation. She managed to sneak a divine spark or a divine piece of this good God from the place called the Pleroma, hard word. So all of these humans, and I think everything, animals, trees, I don't think it's humans, it's everything in this creation has this divine spark within it. The problem is that divine spark has been so covered over, so deceived, so lied to. That's the best way to start looking at it. How deceived and lied to have you been, not just in your life, but in your pre-birth realm, in your after-death realm, in your, we've been living in a world I'm seeing now of lies and deceit. And that's where some of these creation stories have started to move me into seeing how it all fits together. That we have to, we really have to just end the lies and end the deceit and move to what's true, which is where we are, our divine spark, right?
Yeah. And there was a gal, I'm not sure if you've heard of her. She has a channel called Yellow Rose from Texas, I believe, or of Texas, something like that. But she talks
Okay.
about this whole realm being a copy of an original, where it wasn't like this, where it wasn't like an evil thing or the battle of good and evil, where it's actually, it was a wonderful place, but it got hijacked and then moved into this realm that we're in now. So, I found that fascinating, and I think it makes a lot of sense. One
It does
thing,
explain a lot too, because even when
yeah,
you listen to shamans talk from they always call this a shadow world, which is their way of describing, again, there's experiences and there's perception, but it's not the real thing. It's a shadow. So we're all, and there's Plato's cave, right? There's the whole story of Plato's cave as well. So we're seeing all of this information from all of these different sources. The challenge is how to decode it in such a way that's valuable to our own experience of figuring stuff out and being done.
yeah, and I believe that you mentioned in your one of your chapters, you were talking about the afterlife, and that you will see in the afterlife, as part of the scripted experience, you're going to see whoever you venerate. In other words, if you are a follower of Jesus or Buddha or Krishna or whatever, that's who you're going to end up seeing in your afterlife, and they're going to explain to you why. Well, you just didn't do all that great in this life, so you're going to have to go back and relearn your lesson, right? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So people, we talk about going to the light, after you pass, you have the tunnel and you're going to the light, but where are you really going?
Yeah, these are these are really important questions, and of course, I put this in page 1 of my book. I don't really know what's going to happen after we die for sure. I've had some death experiences myself, but those are helpful pieces of information. I can't say I know, or I don't think anyone else knows. Same thing. We don't really know the creation of this place. All we can kind of
Right.
do is start digging away what's obviously lies, obviously deceit, and see what we're left with. But when you go through the standard story, because there's the standard story of someone who has a near-death experience, and it has certain elements, usually almost guaranteed to it, right? There's usually a white light or a tunnel. Sometimes it's a stairway. There's usually loving beings there, whether they're astral beings, like you say, Jesus or Buddha or grandma, or there's usually a life review, generally designed to show you how you weren't that good of a person. And in many of the life reviews that I've read, actually a lot of the stuff was lies. They were showing things about a person's life that didn't actually happen.
Mm.
And then there's this thing where, oh, you're not ready to go yet. You have to go back. You have a mission. Of course, they never tell you what the mission is. They never tell you why you have to go back. They might just say you need to learn more about love. You need to, and then back the person comes. Now, generally, person who has, now these are the standard experiences. There's another chapter because Jimmy saw the first 6 chapters of the book, and I do a second one of the non-standard ones. These are about 85 to 90% of the experiences. And generally, when the person returns here, their life transforms. They become much better people.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
they actually become very loving, very kind, very open. It's like, how can you say anything's wrong with this? When you see the people's, when you see what's happened to them, it looks great. The challenge is when you see the ones who have non-standard experiences who seem to go a little bit further. It's almost like the one who's getting the standard near-death experience only goes to a certain point, and then it's like, that's as far as you're going. Back you go. We're keeping it a light experience for you, light, L-I-T-E, so that you go back and give good propaganda, so everybody else will just follow along. But these non-standard ones are, they're indicating that the beings that you're seeing are not really what you're seeing. That they're generally deception techniques. They're reading your mind and then appearing as they want to appear. That the white light is not really doing anything to help you. It's part of the thing that pulls you into the trap. That every deception, and here's the most important thing. I'll shut up in a second, and then Jimmy can talk. Is one of the things I've come to find out from the research of really good people. There's some really good people have been researching this out there. Wayne Bush at trickedbythelight.com. He's fantastic. Mark over at Forever Conscious Research, for example, terrific. Is that we have to agree to come here. Everyone likes to talk about free will. I don't really think we have much free will here. In this, once we're in the material, I think we become much like more of a machine than we like to believe we are. But there it seems in the astral realm, you can't come in unless you agree. So you are under unbelievable deceptions, and there are contracts that get signed. It's quite an amazing thing of what is presented to trick somebody. And like you were saying, look how bad you've been. You've got karma to burn off. You're not learning a good enough experience. So back you have to go. And somewhere there's an agreement to say, okay. And so part of this learning is, I think, to be able to start standing in our own power, our own individual sovereignty, and start saying, I don't have to agree to anything that I don't want to, that I can actually have an opportunity to get answers for real and not be pushed or deceived or forced into anything. And I think that's the first step of where my book is kind of trying to lead people, I guess.
It's definitely something that really makes us think. And, obviously the last 2 years has amped up the craziness like in our face. Before it was a little more subtle, it was more hidden. People like you and me and so many others have been into this a long, long time, decades.
Mm-hmm.
And, we saw what was happening that was, hidden or occulted behind the scenes. But in the last 2 years, for whatever reason, they decided to really amp it up and really put it in our face and go, hey, here it is, try and do something about it, that kind of thing. So it really becomes more and more obvious. Now, whether that's by design or just they did it out of necessity, we don't really know the answer to that. But something that I was thinking about, which may sound crazy to some people, but what if all this play is totally scripted to draw out maximum anxiety and stress from us human beings so that we generate the maximum amount of loosh for these beings.
Yeah, that's a great word. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, the word louche comes from a gentleman named Robert Monroe, who's kind of the original founder of out-of-body experiences. And he wrote in one
Monroe
chapter of a
Institute
book,
too, right?
called Far Journeys in 1971. It's chapter 12. And he talks about an out-of-body experience as where he meets this being who explains to him that what we call planet Earth is a farm. And what is being farmed, and it's not just humans, it's everybody. Everything here is farmed for something called louche, which is a type of energy that they need. And I think it's an energy more like, I see the demiurge and I see the creators of this realm more like a giant computer. So a computer needs power. And in a sense, the beings here become the power source in sort of a perpetual wheel to keep it going. But what's interesting, if you read Monroe's chapter carefully, and I talk about it in chapter 3 of my book, he seems to give indications that we're much late in the creation design, that lots of other beings that seem to be like dinosaurs, seem to be like other kinds of animals and plants were here before us, but the experimenters kept learning that if you can provide more conflict, more suffering, more difficulty, the louche supplies will be greater. So humans were part of this last creation cycle, whether it's 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 years, who knows? But we've been, in a sense, designed into a system to create as much suffering as possible. Like the Monsters Inc., basically. How to create as much, fear, anxiety, difficulty. Not that louche won't come from happy emotions too. They just seem to get better louche rewards from that. So his chapter is so interesting in looking into our realm, and it matches what Carlos Castaneda said, what a number of people 20, 30 years ago, and these ancient texts said. But when you look at Monroe, though, the story with him, he finished this book. He went into a 2 or 3 week depression, apparently, where he didn't come out of his room, and people, I don't know, maybe thought he was going to kill himself. He came back out again. He hadn't said a word about it again since. The Monroe Institute has nothing to say about this chapter in the book ever. I'm actually thinking of calling them on the phone and saying, "What can you tell me about louche?" My guess is they're going to just not answer because they haven't said anything, and you have to wonder why. This is like one of the greatest revelations to come up from anybody, and he doesn't say anything about it for whatever the 20, 30 years he was alive after that. It's very strange.
Yeah, that is pretty odd. It makes you wonder if maybe he had a visit from somebody or some things that kind of said, "Hey, we don't want you talking about this," because we hear stories about things like that where people are getting a little too close to the truth here and there, and they get a little visit saying, you've gone too far. You can't talk about these things. You can talk about other stuff, but you don't talk about this. And then we know.
And I think it leads into what you led into your last comment about how crazy our world is. My feeling is that there's actually a doorway out of here that's open right now. I don't mean like out of material world. I mean, because Plato's cave is not just the material. It's the material realm. It's the etheric realm. It's the astral realm. It's the angel realm. It's whatever realm you can think of. It's all Plato's cave. It's all just a layer. And something indicates to me that for some reason, this simulation must go through periods. Oh, I froze.
I still see you just fine.
Oh, you said, well, I froze on my side.
Oh, okay. You're good.
Okay. What we're dealing with is we're dealing with an opening right now that I think that's what's happening. They're trying to really bring in the negative emotions so people miss the opening.
That's interesting. Now, do you think that there are beings outside of this realm who are trying to, and this is something that the Yellow Rose, I think it's Yellow Rose Vortexes. Sorry if I can't get that exactly right, but she talks about that there are other beings who are our families trying to help us escape this realm, who are trying to help us move this entire realm out of this sort of prison environment back to where we belong, at least, or move us soul beings or us spirits back out of here. Do you think have you ever seen any indication of that from your research or your intuition intuition.
Yeah, to me, that would be no. If I really go back and listen to, like, the Cathars were very clear. The Cathars said, for example, Jesus couldn't have been the way he's depicted normally in Christianity, because as soon as you take a material body, you would instantly become full of sin. And as soon as you're in fact in any level of this realm, you would instantly be sin. You would be evil. So he couldn't, he couldn't complete the task that he was expected to unless he was a hologram. So in many Cathars saw Jesus as a inserted hologram into the realm. That way he could have been pure. That explains the virgin birth. That explains producing information and instantly disappearing. So to me, the realm itself it doesn't matter where you look, this realm is designed to be suffering. And I'm not really sure all the beings that we put outside of ourselves as saviors or helpers or wonderful spirits. Again, we don't really know what we're dealing with. And these things are masters of deception. And it's very easy to put our power outside. I have a chapter on prayer. It's so easy. All of our prayers are constantly outside of ourselves. Spirit being, God, this kind of deity, this whatever. Why not just pray to yourself? Why not just realize your own inner power and just realize that's the only place you ever have to go? You've already got everything you need. Anything outside of you can just give you an extra pointer, an extra way to a direction. You've got it already inside. It's just unlock it, use it.
Yeah, I've thought that myself, that I think that is so important, that we need to realize that we are divine beings. We are individuated fragments of the creator. That's the way I see it anyway.
Mm.
And so we give up our own power. So we give it up to religious beliefs, to political beliefs, to scientific beliefs. I mean, you name it. I mean, there's
Right.
mind boxes for every every person, in every way possible. And so that is part of the game, is to distract us from who we are and our own personal power,
Right.
and knowing that axiom, know thyself, is one of the most important things that any human being can actually do. And
Yeah.
meditation is how that's done, in my estimation. And that's how we connect with who we are.
It's just seeing clearly. It's just finding whatever way is right for you to see clearly. And
Mhm.
different people will have different ways of doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a zillion ways of doing that and accomplishing that, but we have to realize that there are traps, not only just soul traps bringing us back to reincarnation, but there are mind boxes, there are belief systems of
Yeah.
all kinds and varieties that we fall into, because we don't want to take personal responsibility for every aspect of our lives. We would rather, be saved by this being, or saved by this belief system, or that teacher, or that person that is way more advanced than us, and we give away our power to. And
Yeah,
that's,
and of
that's
course
part of
the
the trap.
challenge too is how manipulate. I think this is another thing most people don't realize, is how manipulated we are in our standard reality. These beings are not just, they just don't send us loose into the pit of suffering and go have a good time. They're actually interfering in our lives in many cases,
Mhm.
directly. Really good book. What was her name? Eve Lorgan, right? Who wrote Alien Love Bite, discusses how so many people have had their particularly love relationships actually manipulated to create
Sabotage.
more problems, more difficulty. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we also have all of this stuff where we think we're in control of our lives. We think we're making all these decisions, but we don't really know when we're actually making a decision, when we're not making a decision, when something is destiny, when it's beyond our control, when something's being manipulated. So we're like at square one, and we have to say, I really don't know what's going on. I really don't know. Even the choice of breakfast I had this morning, did I really choose that, or was that already in a computer program? And I'm just like equivalent of a character in a video game that had four choices this morning for breakfast, and this is the one I picked. It's once you, like you say, begin wrapping your head around this stuff, it really starts to make you question a lot.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I think we can demonstrate that we have free will in certain things. But like you said, everything could be absolutely controlled, but I don't believe that. I think that there are certain things we can do. If I decide I want to walk across the street right now, I could get up and walk across the street. Now, what purpose that would serve, I have no idea.
Here's
But
the thing: you could because you were. It's in your program to do it. But think of all the things that, like, you couldn't become the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. No matter how much you wanted to, you couldn't tomorrow. No matter how good your intention was, how good your affirmation. So I think we've got what we think of as free will is a certain number of coded choices, and we can choose between those maybe 1,000 walkways or choices, pathways. But by considering the billions of possibilities, I think we're actually way more limited in this realm than we think.
okay, so how much power? Let's talk about what can be
Yeah.
done or cannot be done. So we all reference the power of prayer quite often, and we engage in it because we
Yeah.
are wanting to, improve our situation, improve the situation of others, and we have compassion for people in the world, and those of us who are, aware of these things,
Yeah, some do.
we want everybody to, thrive and be happy and have
Right.
abundance and cooperation and all these wonderful things. But how much power do we actually have? How much of an effect does prayer have? How much power do we have as fragments of God in this world? I think where we come from, where we originated, we probably have quite a bit of creative ability. But how much do we really have in this realm?
Yeah, I think it's on one level it's more limited than we think. On another level, it's quite large in small scale. I think we have quite an ability to make some changes in our immediate environment. Like, think of how many people have been praying for world peace for 100 years. It's getting farther and farther away. So it's obvious that if you're trying to fix the dream, if you're trying to fix the simulation, that's going to be a wasted energy. If you're trying to make transformative changes in your immediate environment and in your immediate experience, I think you have almost unlimited power in that area. And I'll give you a story that I just got a little while ago, because I was having this conversation with a native medicine man friend of mine, Jerry, and I was talking about, why are we praying outside of ourselves and all the powers here? Why don't we pray inside? And he told this story of a community somewhere in Arizona 20 years ago that was having a terrible drought. It had been like a month and hadn't rained. So they brought some local medicine men in to pray for rain, and nothing happened. There was no rain. So they brought another medicine man in from the north. He did his ceremony, and immediately it rained. And it rained for like 3 or 4 straight days. And they finally asked him, why did it rain when you did it? And he said, oh, the other medicine men were praying for rain. When you pray for something, it means it's not here. I just prayed rain. And when I took that back to Jerry, I said, so actually what he was doing is he first became rain. So once he himself was rain, then it was just rain speaking to rain. So of course rain is present. It's automatic. It just materializes. And I did the same thing. I pick a lot of blueberries at this time of the year, and I always leave a prayer and an offering, to the forest, to the blueberries. This time I said, wait a minute, I'm going to become a blueberry first. Why don't I first be a blueberry, giving my prayer thanks to a blueberry? So there's no middle ground. I am what I'm praying to. The harvest that day was beyond belief. There was so many
Wow.
blueberries, it was like impossible to. And I realized this is one of the prayer tricks: is become what it is you're praying for first. Then you don't have to bring it to you. It's already here. It's such a minor little shift, but it's mind blowing what it would do.
Oh, now I like that. That's a fascinating thought, and
Yeah.
something that we should probably experiment with quite a bit, right? To see what we can actually do. Um, all right,
I
let's talk
think
a
then
little.
it's unlimited. I think then it would be unlimited, because now you're not you're not asking for something from someone else. You don't need to be good or special or important. You already are and by being that, what you're already calling into yourself, you are that thing so intimately, everything about it. It just automatically would appear. it made complete sense when he explained it to me.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you have to become the thing that you're looking for.
Right.
So that you always hear the saying, "Be the change that you want to see." So that kind of
Yeah.
fits in with that, right? Um,
Sure.
okay, let's talk about we've been talking about reincarnation, the soul trap, and all that. In the
Yep.
afterlife, there's all these stories about what goes on in life between lives, and there's that
Yeah.
book by Newton, Journey of Souls, I think it's called,
Right.
where he discusses, he has regressed people, literally hundreds of people, and they have a lot of commonality in their experience in between lives. In other words, a lot of them attend these spiritual classes, and they review their lives, they do all these different things, have these different experiences. But then again, all of that could be part of this whole scripted experience, right? So it's just
Right.
another frequency of existence, and when we think about the electromagnetic spectrum of frequency of light, we see this tiny little piece that we actually can perceive in these human bodies. So there's way more that goes on. But then you talked about soul contracts and things like that. So a lot of that
Right.
programming can go on in between lives. And from speaking to different shaman over the years, and people who practice helping others clear soul contracts that are negative,
Mm.
or clear attachments, things like that, they actually can see these different things and see how it affects your life going forward. But then again, all of this could be part of the scripted experience, right?
Yeah, it's so challenging to go through it all, because I mean every one of these experiences is genuine, So I would never want to, try to say somebody is making something up, or they're having a fake experience. No, they're really having an experience. The question becomes, is it an honest experience that's being given to them, or are they being tricked and deceived somehow in it? And it leads to a couple of things. One problem we have, of course, is this thing, the memory wipe. That you have to. I've come to the conclusion now that reincarnation is almost a guaranteed fact. There's just too many verified stories. Just because someone doesn't remember them specifically doesn't mean they're not happening. But it's very clear that when you are sent back in here, you get the hermetic cup of forgetfulness. You get the memory wipe. You forget everything. And that instantly destroys anyone who's telling you you're here, that this is a school, this is a place of learning, this is a place of getting better. There's no possible way any of those things match having your memory wiped. You know, when I go to grade 4, I don't forget how to add and subtract that I learned in grade 3. If you forget everything that you've already learned and have to relearn it again, that's not learning. That's actually a form of torture. It's like teaching you how to do something really important and then pulling it all out of your mind, or learning like, hey, every time I touch stinging nettle, my hand hurts. Put some gloves on, and then I can pick the nettle. I come back into life again. I got to touch the nettle again and get stung. So that's the first problem that exists. The fact that you're getting wiped of everything. And I think it's similar to, I think this is where Westworld really brings in, the television show brings in this so valuable, is that's what happens to the robots. Every time the robots get shot up and killed, they get taken back to mission control, they patch them up, and then they erase the memory of the last life so that they can go back and get raped and killed again, and whatever. Because if the robots started remembering what's been happening to them, if they've been remembering that they're in the suffering pit of hell, then they're going to start doing whatever they can to get the hell out of there. And this couldn't work. I mean, there's no way you could keep coming lifetime after lifetime. Like, some lifetimes won't be so bad. Other lifetimes are going to be just the worst suffering possible. If you remember any of that, guaranteed you're going to say, I'm done. I'm done with this place. There's no way in hell I'm having anything to do with it. And so when we take that to the standard experience of the white light and the teaching and the beings talking to you, the problem is they are associated with this. They are associated with this crap hole realm. And so for me, it means I'm dropping all of that as some sort of deception and a lie, because all that happens is you're going to get recycled back here again. That instantly tells you it's not anything good. So even though it's presenting it as a loving place, as a loving experience, as an overwhelming joy. That's another one they get right. Overwhelming love, overwhelming joy. I think it's like drugging somebody. It's the same as somebody who has one of their first drug experiences, right? They'll talk about the same thing. It was overwhelming love. It was overwhelming joy. I saw everything of the universe, and then the drug wears off. You feel like crap. Oh, I need another hit of the drug. And I get a sense all of this ties in somehow to part of the deception. And I think the best thing we can do, is if we find ourselves in the after death realm and we can stay lucid, because I think lucid dreaming and out of body experiences are really helpful to get used to being in a non-physical state, is just not to do anything. Don't be forced or don't feel drawn to do anything. Take your time if possible. Just wait. Just say, you know what? I'm going to figure out what's going on here. I don't need to be told what's going on. Use that inner power, use that inner strength, know that divine spark is greater than all of this, and at least take the time to say, everybody stop, get away from me, I'm figuring out where I am. I think just doing that gives you a huge head start in figuring something out.
Yeah, that's super interesting. One thing I wanted to ask you, get your take on this. How many actual humans do you think are in this realm? That's something that fascinates me because, what have we got here? Have we got just a bunch of AI personalities masquerading as humans, as the so-called leaders of the world, steering us into all these horrible directions?
What's your percent? If you had to give a percent, what would you give?
I would guess. A term that a lot of people talk about is non-player characters, right? NPCs, that there could be a certain amount of what we perceive as human beings that are not actually, they're just like placeholders. They can actually go through life. They can live and have jobs and have families and all that, but they really are not actual human beings, that they are placeholders or non-player characters. Okay. So there's that, and then there's the controllers, we don't know what they are, whether they're AI or they're some kind of alien beings masquerading as humans, reptilians, or, who knows? My sense, just my intuitive sense, is that there's really not that many of us actual humans here. I think if I had to guess, maybe a few million, maybe 10 million is what I would think. And
I was going to say max 10%. That was max, absolute. Max.
So you're talking what, 700 million then? Right.
Yeah, but that's max. Yeah. That would be, but it could, that's at least my number is definitely no more than that. But yeah, you could be correct.
But we're just guessing, of course, and for people listening, we don't know. Nobody knows.
We don't know, but each of us, Jimmy and I have had, we've done a lot of work in the course of our lives in a lot of different areas. And before I got into these books, I was being pushed by a Korean monk and native medicine men to deal with reality directly. And many times when I dealt with their exercises with reality directly, reality would just fall apart. It just, nothing would stay solid. Your show Inside the Matrix. Literally it was Matrix-like. It was just non tangible at all. And very few people, when that would happen, would stay tangible. So once I started realizing I don't really know how many people are really here or not, and like you say, how many are just sort of robotic, like placeholders. What I found is you can test a little bit with people, is that if the more information you try to get out of them about themselves personally, it's you'll notice the box is very limited. It's like they speak in particular things, in particular ways, in particular types of stories, but they don't go beyond that. Where the ones who seem more human, they can travel to all sorts of different stuff. You can almost have trouble tracking what they're talking about sometimes. And it's like check it out. They're really boxed, it seems, in what they have to share. Maybe because they don't have much to share.
Yeah, I think the non-player characters are completely and solely uh, manipulated by the
Yeah.
propaganda, basically. Just how the media world tells them they should be
Well,
operating in
actually,
this
I don't
world.
even think they're manipulated by it. I think they're literally, it's like they've got an antenna in their operating system, and like a frequency just gets sent to them that's automatic. I don't think there even is an exchange. I think they live on they just pick up a frequency, and the frequency tells them what to think, if
The
that makes
Borg,
sense.
right? The Borg.
Yeah, almost like that.
Hive mind. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it seems that way because uh, we encounter, because we follow people who are thinkers and people who have gone beyond. People have gone deeply into their own beingness. So we recognize each other when we see each other and when we hear each other talk and all that. But there are so many people who just can't even fathom any of that. I mean, you can't discuss anything further than the weather, uh, the latest sports scores, or just mundane things that really have no significance in our lives to those of us who are trying to figure all this stuff out. So
Yeah, I think there's two kinds of humans. There's that's the one kind, the one who's trying to understand they realize something is wrong here. Something is seriously wrong, and they're trying to figure out what it is and potentially what they can do about it. The
right.
other half, I think, are the humans who are unbelievably compassionate. I think there's the other half. People see the suffering here, and like the kind of people who spend 10 hours a day running a dog or animal shelter to help, homeless pets for, they make nothing, they don't get anything for it other than the time they put in and helping the animals. So I think you've got these two sides. You've got the ones who are trying to figure everything out, and you've got the ones who show unbelievable compassion to the world, trying to put that into reality to make a difference. And then it's the middle ground of, if you're not on either of those sides, what are you doing here?
Yeah, and I think some of us are sort of a combination of both of those things too. Is that
Yeah.
we do have compassion for other people in a big way, but at the same time we're trying to figure out this whole existence. What the purpose is and what we're really here. And I don't know if that's even knowable, right? I mean, we go into all of these things and we're really we cover so much information. We read so many books. We listen to so many people talk. And a lot of the near-death experiences, like you said, are fascinating. People come back and they're charged up and they're just full of love.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it makes you wonder if they've just got jolted with a giant dose of dopamine, from
Yeah.
from these controllers that, to just give them this euphoric thing that they come back with. And then I don't know how long that sort of feeling lasts. I have a feeling it wears off over time when they get back into the reality of this crazy world that we're in, right?
Yeah, although I mean, some people do stay changed for quite a while. But one of the questions started to come to me when we were talking about prayer, and it's one of the last things I got into in the final chapter of this book is, so there are some people who can just mostly through prayer can have unbelievable healings. I mean, I saw native medicine men do things that were almost impossible, right? So the question is, well, who are they really praying to? And I was reading a book by a Greek woman. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Anagnostou, I think is her last name. Anagnostou. And she speaks about, actually there's three different realms of the astral world. The first realm is where the standard near death experience takes place. It's mostly a place of judgment. But once you move to the next realm, it's like a demonic realm where the demon beings, the ones who have been setting up all of our negative demotions, eat the final loosh. They get their final loosh meal. But then there's a third realm after that, that is where we might call them the angel beings live. And they come and they also get a feeding of energy. And she didn't explain it too well, but I wonder if, in a sense, every time we make a prayer, say we make a prayer to get a healing done, if I go outside myself, I ask something else for the healing, I wonder if they help the person get healed, are they kind of leaving an energy token on us and saying, okay, we're granting your prayer, but you're going to pay for that in the afterlife. We're going to take our toll on the other side. And this matches a lot of stuff that's in some of the Nag Hammadi documents that talk about these gatekeepers. Rudolf Steiner talks about it too, that demand tolls as you go through. And I think tolls are energy. And I don't think it's just necessarily energy in general. It might be a payment for saying, hey, I did that for you when you were in the material. Remember you asked for that? Give me my payment. So again, I wonder about, maybe it's best to start learning how to only pray to ourselves and how to influence the world through our own deepest true self. And then we have no tolls to pay in the afterlife.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. And, we obviously have miracles that happen in the world. They've been documented. There are wonderful things happen, healings, spontaneous healings. We see this is not make believe. This is not fantasy. These are things that actually occur. So what comes to mind is are we actually healing ourselves if we have what seems like a miraculous healing? Are we healing ourselves? Why are we allowing ourselves to be healed? Or is there, like you said, is there some kind of outside force that is giving us the energy to do that, or just actually doing it themselves? It really makes you wonder about how all that works. And we know there is power in prayer because there are healing circles and that have focused on different things, whether it's the weather or somebody's health or some events in life, and they seem to have a real effect on these things. So there is some legitimacy to all of that. But like the question is, like you said, would praying to yourself be the better avenue for that? Or, there's so much we don't know.
It just, no, again, these are such important questions. And I think that's kind of why I pushed myself into putting the book down, because I wanted to start taking these questions in my head and try to get them on paper and try to see what comes from it, what others who will come across the book and what they're going to suggest. Because like you say, there's going to be a second book, hopefully sometime next year, if the world is still functioning, where I take what's come back to me and go into a second level of research. And this is a really important one. It's, we see that stuff is happening. How exactly did these miracles happen? And is there a payment that gets made later that we don't know about? And if there actually is, how can we still be performing the miracles without sort of being charged later on for it? You know what I mean? How to have a completely free energetic experience. These are all really important questions, and it's things I think people should really know and really ask and try to figure out, because I don't know, but there's things that make me go, I wonder what's really going on there.
And I think we'd be a lot further along if we didn't have all these mind boxes that people, buy into. There are, like I said before, all the religions and the philosophers and all these different ways of thinking that people kind of go so far and then they just stop. They go, okay, I kind of like this idea, whether it's the Christian paradigm or it's whatever it is that their belief system. They say, this person seems to know a lot more than I do, or this concept, this religion, this philosophy knows a lot more than I do. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with that, rather than actually going down the road of know thyself, knowing who you are as a divine being, and then just living your life from that aspect. To me, spirituality is really, really pretty darn simple. It boils down to just a few basic things. Don't be a jerk. Be a nice person. Be kind and loving. Just a few things like that, the golden rule, just a few basic things is really all you need. And the other side of that is don't be a doormat. If people around you are doing nefarious things, don't allow them, into your space. Don't associate with them. But, so we don't need to get into all this complicated ritual and all these different things that people do, thinking that they're going to, somehow conjure up, divine beings to move into their lives and create all this stuff. I think we need to focus, like you said, on who we are and live our lives from that standpoint.
Yeah, for me, I think it really changed. I started this 25 years ago, and I think whenever you begin this process, and particularly when you go really deep into it at the beginning, you naturally think you realize the place is screwed up, so you can fix it. And you spend your time trying to fix it for a long time. Some people spend the rest of their life trying to fix this place, and it never gets fixed. It never actually improves. It never actually gets better. And I think there becomes a really big shift when you start to finally see, oh yeah, it can't get better. It can't get better because it's designed for loosh harvesting. That's what it is. It's such a hard thing, I think, for people to have to come to that realization. And don't come to the realization because I'm telling you, if it sounds like something you want to explore, go explore for yourself. These are things you have to find out yes or no for yourself. But for me, I've finally come to the realization that that's what this place is. It's never going to get any better. It's never been any better. It's never going to change. So, okay, don't put my energy out there to fix it. And I don't need to fix myself. All I need to do is be rooted in myself. Like you say, have courage and honesty and compassion and commitment. And all of a sudden, life will open doorways for what you need to know, what you need to do. You don't change the system by fighting it, because you just create more of it. I think if I had to have a simple answer, know what sanity is and choose sanity, because around you almost all the time, all you're going to find is insanity. So just don't choose that. Don't choose. It doesn't matter what it means to me, what my material form might suffer by saying no to insanity. I'm just going to choose sanity. Long run, your soul and your spirit will definitely thank that choice.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think the ones that we perceive as the evil controllers, which there are definitely ones out there, at least that is our perception anyway, that are pulling the strings, right. Who are coming up with these, the New World Order crowd, the World Economic Forum crowd, and all those people. In their minds, they're probably thinking, you know what? It doesn't matter what we do here. There's no consequence. We just do what we want. And so why not just screw everybody over, get all the money, get all the power, get all the toys, get all the stuff we want, and just make our lives, just awesome for us, and just screw over everybody else because there's no consequence. And that's the way it seems to go. But there, those of us who know who we are, we know we can't live like that. We don't want to live like that. We don't want to use other people. We don't want to abuse other people. We have no intention of doing any of those things. But I really feel like whether they're actually human beings or whatever they are, these people that are pushing all this suffering and, these horrible consequences on the rest of the people in this world, I don't think they really care about any of that, because they're just out for themselves completely. And that's just the way they see it.
I would agree. I think it's more of a sense I talk about, there's stories of people who sold their soul,
Mm-hmm.
and that's, I think, a perfect example. Once whatever that spark is gone, because like everything's a commodity. Everything could potentially be traded in a sense. So I think you could do that. And once it's gone, it's gone. And I think once you know that, you're not getting it back. You're Cypher in the Matrix, right? That's what he was doing. He was selling his soul there when he was having the discussion with Mr. Smith. So once you know you no longer have a soul, you can never leave you can never leave Plato's cave. You can't. Only souls can leave the Matrix non-souls can't. Non-souls will be here until the computer shuts down, until literally the simulation is no longer running anymore. So under those circumstances, of course, they have no scruples whatsoever, because nothing they do will get them out anyway. They're now like a construct, I think. So I think helps to make sense of what we're seeing, how beings are acting in the realm, because they feel. Of course, maybe after you have given it away, maybe you can get a soul back. I mean, I don't know. My guess is it's probably difficult, but like anything, maybe you could. But certainly, a huge number of, we'll call them people, who are in certain positions on Earth don't seem to be doing anything to try to regain a soul, hold on to a soul, foster a soul. And that's what hopefully people like yourself and me and others are doing, not just with how we live, but how we question things, that we're trying to feed our soul. Other things are trying to feed off us, but we're trying to feed our own soul so that we can get to a place where we really know what's going on. We know what to do, and we just have the courage and the ability and the love, the self-love, right? Love is always talked about external, but the self-love to say, I love my soul enough that I want what's best for it, and that's for it to be home. And that's the easiest way I can describe it. My focus is just, it's time for me to be home. I don't need to be at this crazy party anymore. It can keep going if it wants. Good luck. Keep drinking if you want. I'm going home.
I love that thought, in that it would be so great to go home to a world that we have faint memories of at some point, that we were possibly living in a world that was great, and wonderful. And then people say, well, how could that be? Because you don't even realize you're in a great place if you don't have bad experiences and evil to give you the contrast of knowing what's good and what's not. No, I think it's totally possible to live in a place that is good and has goodness in it.
Or again, I would say they're right too. Home wouldn't even be a place where there even is good, right? It would be just it'd be an absolute stillness. It would be an absolute peacefulness and an absolute totality. So it would even be beyond that. So you wouldn't need to have any juxtaposition of any duality to justify that place. It would just be that feeling when you finally make it back home and you get on your couch, you're like, you don't need to do anything else. It's perfect. I think that's probably what it's like.
Now, you sparked a thought when you mentioned to me, or when you mentioned a little while ago, that you don't know if somebody can get their soul back if they sell it. And I think that some people have tried, because we know that a lot of these celebrities, a lot of the politicians, these people have obviously sold their souls. We just look at the way they operate, the way they behave is crazy. But I think some of them, it's interesting. They'll come out with information that they should never talk about, or they try and reveal things to the world that are helpful to the rest of us, right? And we see those people, a lot of them end up paying, the ultimate price of this life, right? Their life gets ended. And so what happens from there, some kind of a reset, the soul gets recycled back in, what happens then? Do you come back into
again, these are all really good questions, and I'm hopeful these are things I can dig into over the next 6 months or so, and maybe get some other ideas, because
I'm going to
these are valuable questions.
I can't wait to hear what you come up with, because this is a fascinating conversation to have, and I think a lot of people are very interested in this if they've gone beyond the daily mundane routines that we all go through just to try and survive in this crazy place. So with that, Howdie, I want to thank you for joining us today. I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom, your insight, your research, and all these good things. And we look forward to your book coming out. Now, when do you estimate the first book's going to come out?
Well, this one should be out. So today is the 9th. It should be ready tomorrow, the 10th, as like a PDF ebook to start with. Where
can people find that?
That would be on my website. Maybe you'll put a link to it below, or I'm gonna make a video. As soon as it's ready, I'll put a video on my YouTube channel, so you can maybe have a link to that too. So once it's ready, and then I'm making it a very low donation so that people can get a hold of it. And then perhaps in a couple of months, we'll turn it into a hardcover book. It's always more to have to work to do to get the book together. And I just felt way things might be in November around the world, it's good to get the information available to people who want it now. And
I
that's
think so
kind of,
too.
yeah, because really, I would have to say one thing I felt is don't wait for anything. Don't think in a month or 2 months or 3 months you can do this or you can do that. You do it now. If there's something important to you, do it now. If there's something you want to get and read or look into or watch, do it now.
Yeah, I think that
While you
makes
know
sense.
you've
So
got the ability to do it.
I'll put a link in the description as well as on the screen here,
Yeah.
but tell us what your website is. It your name?
It's a really stupid name. It's Egyptian-wisdom-revealed.com. But if you Google search my name, you would
It'll come
eventually
up.
find it.
Okay.
Or at
I'll
least
put a
if you
link.
get to my, yeah, and if you get to my YouTube channel, then it's no problem. You'd be able to track it through there
Okay.
as well through the videos.
We'll put links in both of
Um,
those so people can find it.
Thanks. And then, yeah, and I mean, I'm looking, not only am I looking forward to that, the writing, because the writing is really for me. It was like a book. I'm writing the book as like my own journey, but I'm hoping that people not only can find something from what I'm presenting, but that they can come back to me with suggestions of like, you mentioned this. Why don't we study this more deeply? And somebody else has gone into a section already and they've studied something, because this is like a jigsaw puzzle and everybody's got a piece or two and we have to share all of our pieces together if we're ever going to figure this out. So I don't want to ever think I got all the answers. Now I got one piece of the jigsaw puzzle. I'm looking for the other 50 or 60 people for their piece. Maybe we can find out what's going on when we put it together.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like I always say this to, during most of the shows, that we all need to keep an open mind, because, we tend to fall into belief systems in mind boxes that kind of stifle our thinking process and our ability to discern. So I just urge everybody, I hope nobody was offended by what we had to say. And then if you were, maybe you need to, just take a look at that and see why that might be. But we need to keep an open mind and be able to consider things. Doesn't mean we have to buy into or agree with everybody else, but we have to have the ability to consider things that maybe we haven't thought of before, or maybe that disagree with our current way of thinking, because that is the way that we learn and grow. So with that, Howdie, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time and energy. And we'll see all of you out there inside the Matrix and maybe beyond one day. Okay, take care, everybody.